What is up, YouTube? Silver Surfer coming your way this afternoon with a small size $1 note collection. So I wanted to show you guys this. I've been meaning to get around to it. I haven't had a chance, but anyways, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into it. If you have not seen my large size currency, we ended the part 2 on that fractional piece as well as that red seal funny back right there. So go ahead and check those two out. I'm a big fan of the large size currency, but I'm also a big fan of the small size currency, guys. It's kind of a market that's very, very hot right now in the currency realm. You know, the large size notes are down from a couple of years ago. However, the small size notes are just booming, you know, from anywhere from fancy cereals to high denominations to very nice gem condition small size notes like, you know, either silver certificate or something along those lines. Error notes, it's very, very popular. So it's a great time to get into small size collecting, in my opinion. But most of mine, I'm just going to show you guys the $1 today because I'm going to try and do different denominations with a little bit different features here on videos. But most of mine I've had for a very long time and or found them in circulation. So that's what makes my collection special, in my opinion. It's nothing too spectacular, you know, with some crazy gem unk star note or anything like that. But again, it's special to me because, like I said, I've had them for a while, inherited them, or found them in circulation. But we're going to go ahead and jump right into the silver certificate. It's the 1928A series. They started making small size notes in 1928, so this is the first year of issue, second series, if you would. It's got a nice little tone spot there. I've had this note for a while, though. And again, these things in nice gem condition now, they're getting up there in price. They're silver certificates, small ones, in very, very good condition are starting to increase in price. You know, back in a few years ago, you can get a 64, 65 for, you know, less than $100, but good luck finding one like that nowadays. But I really like these things, man. I love the blue seals on them. Very popular. If you guys don't own a small size funny back, I highly recommend getting one, and I'll show you why they call it a funny back here in a minute. The next series size that they made, and this is all for my Washington portrait set, guys, so that's kind of the order I have it going on here, but it was the 1934 series, and this is actually, I like this series, the obverse, better than this series here in the 28. You can see the difference, compare and contrast. Basically, they moved the seal over, and then they got this big blue 1, which they made the 5 as well as the 10, and I just really like this series, you know. I don't know, the big blue 1, I guess it is. And the 5s look super cool, the 10s look super cool. I do have a type note for each of those also, but we'll show this at a later date. Anyways, 1934, this one is also funny back. This was the last year's series that they had the funny backs before they switched to the newer style, which you guys are probably familiar with, the 1935 series. So they went from that blue 1 to the gray 1 here. The seal got a little bit smaller. They got rid of the 1 inscription there written. And I think they also made, where is it at here? Nope, that's a different thing. But yeah, so those are a few changes that they did here in the 1935 series. Again, relatively inexpensive note. Again, another note that I've had for quite some time. Show you guys the backs here. So the funny backs, they called it that because people thought that it looked a lot like Monopoly money. As you can see, it's very similar to the 1923 large size $1 silver certificate. They borrowed that design heavily. And I've showed that those two notes in my first videos, part 1 and part 2, so go ahead and check those out. And then the 1935 series here, the one big difference that we see, this reverse that we don't have nowadays, can you tell? All it is In God We Trust, the seal up there. Really, it's been the same since 1935 to the current Federal Reserve note that we have. So pretty cool. All right, moving on. We got the, there it is, 1935A series, Hawaii note. This one's in pretty beat up shape here, but again, I've had this for quite some time. Emergency issued silver certificates. These are important during World War II as there was concern with Japanese invasion over in Hawaii. And so if that were to happen, this notes would essentially be void. And so you can tell by the brown seal with the Hawaii stamped here. And on the backside, it's nice and big Hawaii, which you'll see here in a minute. But cool, a very cool, interesting note. Very important part of our history, and I recommend everyone pick one of these up. I mean, you can get one in this shape for, you know, $10. In a lot better condition, they're, you know, you'll pay a couple $100 for them and uncirculated, but just a cool piece of history. Moving down, I do have the North African note, another emergency kind of GI issued money. This is also 1935, and it's also a silver certificate. A lot of people don't realize that we were also in country in North Africa during the war, and we had service members over there. You know, it wasn't just in the Pacific or in Europe. This was also another theater, and so once again they issued this money over there, and you know, the GIs were used to be able to buy things with, but it was basically null and void back here in the States. So this one's designated with the yellow seal, as you can see right there. So pretty cool. They made this denomination in the $1, the $5, and the $10. Really, really cool. Another must in anyone's collection, if you ask me. Moving on, we have the last series, I should say, of the design type of the 1957. So very similar to the 35 I showed you guys, except for the reverse. This 57 here will have the "In God We Trust" on the back, and the 35 does not. So, but aside, the obverse is exactly the same, except for some signature pair differences and the series year, which obviously caused the change from the signature pairs. But yeah, a note. This is another note I've had for a very long time, and yeah, just a cool piece of silver certificate history there. I love it. And here's the backs. There's the "In God We Trust" that I was saying on the 57, and then the rest. You got "No In God We Trust" from the North African, and there's your Hawaii back. You can see it's nice and stamped within there. So very, very cool piece of history. Moving on, just a couple other silver certificates I've had for a long time. That first one I showed you was a 57. This is a 57A, so just a different signature block. And this one's kind of special, guys. This is a 57B, another different year series with a different signature block. But the cool thing about this is if you read that there, so it kind of just tells you what a silver certificate is. Until the 1960s, it was exchangeable for silver. But this one's special to me, guys, because I picked this one up at, right there, Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon. So that's just really, really cool, man. I picked that up at old George's place, and you know, at the gift shop. It cost me $5, and I don't really care how much. If you guys say, "Oh, you overpaid," you should only pay face value for that, and that's true. That's pretty much what they're worth. But this thing's you know, priceless to me, man, with that history behind it and where it came from. Not saying that he used it, obviously, or anything like that, or it's any pedigree, but it's just a cool reminder of me in Mount Vernon, which is why I left this little piece of paper and the same slip that it has. So, and then finally, most of these next notes here that I'm going to show you guys are all from circulation. So here's a 69B, nice shape one, man. This is basically what it currently looks like, the notes you have in your pocket. They changed this in 1963, was the first year that the Federal Reserve note came out for the $1 bill. Started in 1928, it started in 1914 with the large size notes. The Federal Reserve Act was passed in 1913, and they made all the denominations except for the 1 on the large size currency. So that didn't actually happen. Then we switched to the small size, as I mentioned, in 1928, with the Federal Reserve notes were also present then, but the smallest denomination size was not the $1 bill until 1963. In which we need a little bit more money. You know, they got rid of the silver certificates and redeemable, and so we needed something else to replace that. So they went with the Federal Reserve note, which we already had that going on for the other denominations, and so they used it for the $1 bill. But 69B, found in circulation, very, very cool. And here's that back. There you go, Mount Vernon. $5 I paid for it, and I don't care because that's just rad and a reminder of my time there. It was a great time touring. I highly recommend it if you ever get over to the DMV area. All right, so moving on, as I said, these are all finds now from circulation. So this is a cool one. I have some star notes that are relatively better star notes that I found. This first one here is going to be I think this is a 640,000 or maybe a 500,000 print run, 2009. Another better, J notes, star notes are actually pretty tough years to find. I forget, and don't quote me, you guys can look at these serial numbers on that website I showed you in a prior video, but these are just all my better star note finds with lower either print runs or total printing. So there's a J note 2009, and this one's pretty awesome. Great shape too, 2003A. The only 2003A star I've ever found, because there's very few of them out there. So low print run, and I'm pretty sure this one also has a low total printing, which makes it that much more desirable. I usually find star notes about 1 in every $100 straps that I search. That's about the average, but very few of them are considered, quote, rare, if you would. So these are just some of the better ones, as I said. This is the best one I think I found for $1. It's not in the best of shape, but it is problem-free. No stains, no pinholes, things like that. And this is an H series 2009. In the red book, this is only 320,000 printing. So very, very small amount of printing, which makes it very, very desirable. The Red Book has this thing uncirculated as the 4th most expensive note, which I know is very inflated prices, but it's just really cool to be able to find this in circulation, guys. So I think they had it listed as like $675 uncirculated, and about $3.25 for a circulated one like this. But is this going to sell for $325? No, absolutely not. But it's a very desirable starter note for collectors out there that need these things, and a very low total printing. So just a sweet note to find that in circulation. These two are also quite interesting. As you can see, they're both in the F district of Atlanta, and they're both 150,000 print runs. So to find both of those at different straps in different banks in different days is just fascinating to me. I mean, there's only 150,000 print run of these things, and yeah, just really, really cool to be able to find that in circulation. So I was stoked on those. All right, moving on to some really cool stuff. I've showed you guys this one before. This is an error note. I bought this at the Baltimore Coin Show. This is one that kind of got me into errors, and still interested in them, but other priorities right now are taking place. But this is 100% offset from back to front. It is going to mean, so basically what happens here, the bills are printed with the reverses here. And you know what, guys? It looks like my time's getting close to ending, so I'm going to make this a 2-part video, just FYI, if I can show you guys the rest of them. But basically, the first part of the backs are printed, and then secondly, that's hung out to dry. The second printing is done with the portrait and the border and stuff like that. And then the third and final printing is going to be the seals and serial numbers, okay? It's called the overprint, basically. And so what happens with an offset error like this is that the sheets, the plates, they printed when they were printing the backs here with no sheet inside of it. So when they fed the next remaining sheet, the back got printed appropriately, but the front here, the obverse, also got the remaining ink that was on the plate, the back plate that was already printed, if that makes sense. So in other words, it was transferred on here, and you can see it's transferred, and it's backwards too. You can see everything's in a sense reverse. But the darker the color is, the more desirable the notes are, or the area. So this is a really, really neat one. Pretty decent dark. And yeah, I just love the offsets. They can look super impressive. I was thinking of putting a typeset together maybe one day of a denomination typeset of these things. But anyways, offset, back to front. You can have partial, you can have total, you can have front to back. There's a number of different things you can have with those, but really, really cool. And then the next one, guys, I found this one in circulation, actually. This is called the turn digit error. And you can see this 8 is about, I would say 40 to maybe 50% elevated out of the line of plane here, right? And so essentially there's a turn digit and a stuck digit. A stuck digit is when the overprint serial here will show 2 different serial numbers, like 2 parts of it, if you would. And a turn digit is basically right before that actually happens. So another very popular error to see. Sometimes you can find them in circulation, but just a neat piece to be able to find in circulation, I thought. And I've seen them to that extent, or excuse me, to a lesser extent, having it elevated like that or down. But this is the most out of plane one I've ever actually seen, and so I had to pull it out of circulation. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not an error, guys, you expert hotshots out there. But I posted on a couple of channels or Facebook groups, and everyone seems to think that it is. So thought it was cool. And finally, the note that I'm going to end with on this video is overprint on back error. I just absolutely love this error here, guys. So as you can see, as I mentioned, this is a second printing, but oopsie, someone put it in upside down and didn't get it printed appropriately. So what happened was, on the back, you can see the serial number and the seal. And this note is a beauty. I mean, absolute gem, uncirculated. Like I won this online, actually, from some dude that owned it for many, many years. He bought it at the Long Beach Coin Show, actually, years ago, and finally sold it. But just an awesome piece. Sometimes even more rare is an overprint on back inverted, meaning that the seal and stuff is printed on the back and it's upside down. So they fed the paper in wrong. That's one error. And 2, they fed it in upside down and got it printed on the back. So 2 mistakes. But anyways, so that's what I'm going to end with, guys. And catch me on part 2 of my $1 bill small size type collection.